Everyone, welcome back. And in this video, I wanted to give you some information on the three C's of a user story. So if you haven't heard what these three C's are, then this is a video for you. So what are these three C's of a user story? So the three C's, so one is card, conversation, and confirmation, are the essential components for writing good user stories. So when we say essential components, it means these components help and enable business analysts to write better user stories. So this three C's, first it was introduced by Ron Jeffries in 2001 for extreme programming. So since 2001, this came into picture. So first let's see what cards are. So we all know we write user stories, we deal with cards. So these are where user stories are captured and written. Okay. So initially, before you had PMP tools and software management tools, you had the physical board, you had the physical scrum board. So people used cards to capture down requirements. So once the requirement is put into the card, the team must commit to discuss and implement the requirement. So first, when you get a requirement, you just don't always go and jot it down or write it down on a card. You first need to analyze and see whether this is the requirement, whether it is within the scope of your product. If it is out of scope, you needn't go and put it down on the card as a requirement. But once you put it down, you know that this is a requirement for sure for your product, you put it down on a card. And once it's on the card, then it means that the team is committed to implement that. And how do you do that? Is by further discussions. So when you put the requirement down on a card the very first time, okay, it need not have all the information. Okay, it's okay even if you just have the requirement, the title on that card, it's fine. Okay, as long as you don't lose focus of that requirement and you don't miss out on that requirement, it's fine not to have all the information. As much as you have, you put it on the card. Also, this card, once, as I said, when you put it down on a card, it's the starting point of discussion. That's where your team gets kick started. They start discussing on what the requirement is and how well they can solve the problem and ease out the customer's needs. So cards, they have the following information. Okay, they can contain the following information. So you have the requirement, what exactly the requirement is in the title. Also in a card, you'll be able to have the description, you'll be able to note down acceptance criteria, conversation details, design or document links, metrics. If you want to capture any metrics, you'll have that. You can also note down the assignee. You can also write down the point estimates, how many pointers it would require to implement, and also priorities. So the benefits of using the card is that you can have all this information down in that card. And apart from this, the other benefits is that it is very easy to visualize. Having your entire Scrum and Kanban board and putting it down on cards, it's easy to visualize. Now, when I say cards, don't take it as literal physical cards. So earlier days they used cards, but now you write it down on a card in your software. So that's also called as cards, and that's what I'm meaning. Be it the physical or the virtual card that you're using, the software card that you're using, both have the following benefits. It's easy to visualize. So whether it's the physical Kanban board or the Kanban board that you have in your software, when you view it, it gives a very crisp visualization of the status of the cards. Also, the cards can be shifted from one section to another. So easily you can move cards from backlogs into, A&D lanes or whatever lane that you have on your board. Also, it can be moved up and down based on priority. So apart from moving in a horizontal way from status to status, you can also shift it vertically based on the priority of the cards. So it's very flexible. You can move around with it, and also the information can be added and updated easily on cards. So these are the benefits of using cards. So when you use these cards, I hope you're trying to visualize and see the benefits and how this is helping to write better user stories. So when you have the card and when you start putting down information, you would be able to start generating a lot of information about the requirement. The next component is conversation. So conversation is another helpful component that helps you to write good user stories. How does that do it? So conversations help the team to come together to discuss the requirement and what is the exact customer needs. So now the requirement, when it's put on a card, it's not fully on the shoulders of the business analyst. The team, the entire product team needs to come together. They need to understand what type of a problem the customer is facing, what type of a solution would be appropriate for that problem. So it's only when you discuss, when you have conversations, you are able to get different ideas. So this entire conversation phase, it helps you to have a lot of back to back discussions, and in these discussions the product team exchanges many viewpoints, the suggestion, they suggest ideas and then perspectives. All this is being exchanged. So with all this information, the user stories start getting into shape. Okay, since the requirement details and specifications start to become more clear. Okay, so as you have discussions, you're able to come up with the different criterias, you're able to come up with different rules, with items in scope. There's a lot of things that become clearer when you have these conversations, and that's how business analysts start refining user stories. And finally, the best way to have conversations is face to face. It's very effective. But apart, if you're not able to have face to face conversations, we all know there are other mediums via which we can have conversations, such as emails, chat groups, and stuff like that. But you can see how conversation helps to drive and write better user stories. So this is the second component. And the third component is confirmation. So confirmation, what is this confirmation? These are nothing but acceptance criteria that ensure that the requirement is implemented as per the customer's needs. So after writing a good user story, okay, you need to validate and see whether exactly that has been what is required and it is in accordance with the customer's requirements. So how you can make those validations, it's only with acceptance criterias. So these acceptance criterias come up during the discussion phase. When you have conversations, you get to know what are all the different acceptance criterias that might come up. And also, most of the requirements acceptance criteria, it is made known to the developer before the requirement is implemented. So when you give the acceptance criteria, developers know ahead what are all the different scenarios that they need to cover, and they would write the test cases accordingly. And finally, a user story qualifies for release only when the BA or the product owner confirms that it satisfies all these acceptance criteria. So only on the confirmation does a user story become eligible to be moved to production. Oh, I can say a requirement becomes eligible to move to production. So these are the three components that really help teams to gather requirements, to have a lot of discussions, and to get that user story refined. And finally, know what, no matter what you discuss on these user stories and you come up with solutions, finally there needs to be confirmation as to yes, this is what the right solution is and this is what the customers need. So these three components help in this particular journey, and these are the 3 C's of a user story. So I hope that you got some information on what these 3 C's are. So if you like this video, please do give this a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to this channel, and also do share your feedbacks. Thank you.